Hello, y'all. Welcome to today's live stream. First of all, my name is Tyler Hakes. I run the content marketing agency called Optimist, and I also lead a community called Top of the Funnel. If you're not familiar with me, hello. Second of all, I just want to apologize to anyone about the timing snafu this morning. I know there was a bit of a miscommunication, so thanks y'all for hanging in with us, and apologies to anyone who was confused about the timing. But yeah, we are officially kicking off now. So you've made it. Congratulations. Welcome. I'm excited. So yeah, today we have a really cool guest. Alex Birkett is going to be joining us today. A friend of mine, I was on his podcast about a year and a half ago, and we're going to be talking about the ROI of SEO. So we're going to get into the weeds on some numbers. We're going to talk about how you understand ROI, how you measure it, how you track it. And I think really what's really exciting about this topic is we're going to talk about how you can do that in advance, right? So really thinking about that from a planning perspective. And I think that's such an important topic, especially right now, with sort of uncertainty still happening in the economy and budgets are sort of in limbo. A lot of people are looking for, how do we know that this is going to pay off, and how, what should we expect from investing in content marketing or SEO up front. And so really excited to dive into that topic. Before we get started there, I just want to do a couple of quick announcements, as I normally do. So first and foremost, if you're watching this video right now, please like the video, help other folks find our live sessions. It really helps us to continue to grow the community and create great content and just continue to spread the word. Secondly, if you're not already subscribed to us on YouTube, I would love for you to do that as well. So here's just a quick preview of our YouTube. You can see here, we've already got some new live sessions that are booked coming up. So we've got Mava who's going to be joining us to talk about content workflows. Morty, who's going to be talking about 2023 SEO trends and using AI to create content. So we've got some really exciting, juicy topics coming up over the next couple of months. And we're actually in the process of adding some more sessions. So every month we have live Q&As, live workshops, all kinds of great stuff. That's happening right here on our YouTube channel. So definitely would love to have you subscribe. Second of all, if you really want to stay up to date on what's going on with us, would love to have you join Top of the Funnel. So Top of the Funnel is our free Slack community. Let me just give you a quick preview here. Basically, it's a Slack community for all things content marketing, SEO inbound, right? So we have these live sessions, but we also have tons of other resources, discussions happening inside the community. Again, it's a free Slack community. So all you have to do is pop over to yesoptimist.com/tofu and you can become a member today. We'd love to have you. And as an added incentive, this week, we're actually running a giveaway. So we're closing in on 2,000 members of our community right now. And so we're doing a giveaway. Every new member who joins this week is going to be entered to win their choice of a few different prizes. One of them is the brand new and exclusive Top of the Funnel hoodie. As you can see here in my screen share, this is a mock-up of what it looks like. But in addition to that, we're also giving away free consultations with experts on topics like agency growth, that's myself, freelancing, content distribution, SEO, operations, project management, anything that you can think of. Pretty much we have an expert inside our community who would be happy to help you. So if you want to be entered to win, again, either that sweatshirt or the free 30-minute consultation, all you have to do is become a member of Top of the Funnel. In addition to the Slack channel, we also have a resource library that lives in Notion. So this is a free access library for all members of Top of the Funnel. We have hundreds of resources in here. Most of them, or many of them, are free. Some of them are accessible only by our paid members. But there's, again, over 100 free resources in here on all things content marketing, SEO, link building, pretty much any topic you can think about. So again, would love to have you to become a member of Top of the Funnel. Just pop over to yesoptimist.com/tofu. And with that, I am going to end my sales pitch and pivot back to the topic that we're going to be discussing today. So let's talk about ROI of SEO. Alex is our guest today, and I'm excited to bring him on.
Yo.
Hello.
Thank you very much. I'm excited for this. That hoodie looks awesome, by the way. I want that hoodie.
Yeah, man. Well, I'm pretty excited too. I actually have just gotten my own, so we literally have just launched them, so no one has gotten one yet. So
Very cool. Very exciting.
Indeed, man.
right.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for coming on today. I'm really excited to dive into this topic, and I know it's one that you've actually talked quite a bit about. Kind of the function or the importance of measuring and understanding ROI.
Yeah, I'm glad you touched on the current times too, because I feel like everybody's like, we want to do more with less, and we need to see the value of this before we invest in things. I've been harping on the value of analytics and kind of like modeling things out for a while, coming from my background in more of the experimentation world. But I feel like now more than ever, it's one of those things that's going to be useful for getting people to buy into your vision and retain content in SEO as a core kind of function.
For sure. And I think also it goes sort of hand in hand with AI and like ChatGPT and all that discussion, right? It's easier than ever to create content, right? Content, the floor is as high as ever, right? And so now the question is how do we differentiate? How do we create value? How do we make sure that the content that we're creating is actually doing something for the business?
Yeah. Not an easy question.
Cool, man. Well, let's dive in. Are you all set?
Let's share that screen. All right.
Let me just add that.
Y'all can see it. You can see it.
Yes, sir.
Got a couple tabs open here. I've got this present. So it's going to be light on slides. I'm going to mainly walk through the actual model together with y'all. And we'll do a live example. So it might get technical. Feel free to ask any questions along the way. I'm going to do a little table setting on like what the value of growth models is, what a growth model is, what their utility is, and what their downsides and potential challenges are, some expectation settings with modeling itself. And then after we do this, I'm actually going to walk through some lightweight analytics as well to make sure that what you've modeled out is actually happening and you're progressing towards your goals. So with that said, how to model and measure content marketing ROI. And before we start on the value of a model, I want to first preface and say that, yes, I know content marketing has many benefits, many of which are not measurable. That, however, should not preclude us from measuring the value of content, because at the end of the day, like the stakeholders, the executives, they're going to ask, like, what value am I getting from this? If I'm putting in $1, how many dollars am I getting out? And there's a lot of things, obviously brand awareness, brand affinity, brand sentiment, brand engagement, all of that stuff. But yeah, business person is going to say, like, how much money are we actually making from this? And that's a very good way to sort of leverage support for the program. So there's tons of other benefits, and keep those track. You don't have to track those, but you'll take those with you as well. So what we do is we have a content measurement framework that comes with a part of our strategy and engagements. So we always start out with research. We figure out like the total opportunity, the addressable market, and kind of model that out. That helps us figure out what clients we want to take, and also helps us sort of set a vision towards what the program could look like. We build a strategy based on that. We produce content, we do links, we kind of do the execution part, and then we measure and we optimize, and we go back to the start, fulfilling a sort of flywheel program. So let's talk about that model portion. This is one of my favorite quotes. Also, George E.P. Box, little side note, was the originator of the UW-Madison statistics program. I'm a graduate of Wisconsin, so fond place in my heart. But his quote is, all models are wrong, but some are useful. And that's the important thing to note, is that all we want this to be is useful. We don't want to get caught up in making this entirely 100% accurate, reflective of reality, because that's not possible. Given the assumptions we're making, given the data we have access to, given all of the different assumptions on the content quality, the state of the website, how it exists now, it's like if you write a piece, you don't necessarily know if it's going to rank. So there's a lot of assumptions built in on this. What we want it to be is useful. So with that said, what models are good for, this is how I look at the utility of a growth model. First off, stakeholder communication. Whether it's a client or your boss, it helps to have a quantitative case for the expectations and the plans for the work you're attempting to do. With the stakeholder communication, this is a side note that I've kind of learned as I've went along. I think it helps when you're selling something, when you're selling a vision, to make it very exciting. So maybe you can't do the entire plan today, but you can show what the total addressable market would be for the search landscape in your industry, and say, like, hey, if we're to invest in this, we could start small. We can start at whatever pace we want, but here's where we could be. Here's the future vision of us with this content program. And that gets people out of bed. That says, all right, we're generating 0% of our leads, or 2% of our leads organically now, we could be generating 10, 15, 20% of our leads organically. And what would that do for our cost per lead, for our cost per acquisition? So it's very good for setting kind of an exciting vision. And then from that, goals, obviously you can map out some goals. And like I said, the content model, it's supposed to be useful and it's not entirely 100% accurate. So you got to take those with a grain of salt. But I do think it's a very good ballpark figure, especially if you have some past data to go off of. So if you're setting quarterly goals, yearly goals for your program. Very important next one. It helps you determine the feasibility of getting there given your budget constraints and your strategy. So if you map out this model, if you look at all the keywords in your space, the ones that are relevant to your business, that's going to determine how much money is worth investing in the strategy. Because you can start to analyze kind of break-even points and figure out how much investment would it take for you to get to where you want to go. And if that investment needs to be more or less, and then that helps you obviously ask for more if you need more to hit those goals. And then finally, it helps for changing inputs, optimization, and making decisions. Because with a content marketing program, you've got multiple inputs. You've got the keywords you're going after, the volume, the number of blog posts you're writing, the links that you're building, the conversion rate from a visitor to a lead, the conversion rate from a lead to a customer, the LTV. And it helps you focus on whichever part of that puzzle is going to make the biggest impact. And you can shift and allocate resources to that over time. All right, so slides out of the way, we're going to build a content growth model together. So the two tools we're going to use, we've got this Google Sheet template built out, and I'll click into this in a second. And then I'm going to use Ahrefs to just do some really lightweight keyword research using Buzzsprout, which is this podcast hosting tool. We actually don't even use it. We use Simplecast, but we're going to use Buzzsprout as an example. And I'm going to click into the blog. We wrote a blog post on how to do this, and I'm going to click into this because this will guide us a little bit on the process. So I'm going to jump out of full screen here. Okay, so first up, the growth model. And yeah, actually, that's all I need there. Okay, so like the README says, I'm going to create a copy so I don't tear up the original here. All right, so I'll walk you through the growth model and what it looks like, and then you can kind of see as we go along what the inputs look like. So the README gives a little bit of information. But the first slide, the first tab here is just going to be really simple. It's going to be your target keywords. And by the way, I should note, this is also SEO driven. SEO is the easiest thing to model out with content marketing. There are ways to model out brand awareness, social, et cetera. That's beyond the scope of this webinar. So we're just going to take search volume and sort of the conversion rates that associate to those keywords. That's going to be what we're modeling out today. So here you've got the keywords, the search volume. We keep it simple. We don't do difficulty, CPC, anything like that. You could build a more complex model if you've got any metrics that you care about there. And then once we input those keywords, that's going to basically transport over here into this list, and it's going to include the search volume. And then there's going to be some assumptions with regards to the SERP rank. So this is data from advanced web ranking, and they keep up-to-date sort of meta-analyses of SERP click-through rates. So you've got here about 40% on position 1, you've got 16 or 14% on position 2, on and on. This obviously varies on a per keyword basis. Sometimes you have like 0-click search terms, but it is what it is. We're just, again, it's useful, but it's not perfect. It's so we've got position 1, 43%, et cetera here. And that'll estimate the traffic based on the keywords for those positions. And then finally, here's the real growth model here. So we're going to start with a baseline of traffic. So if this website's not new, you've probably got some traffic coming into your blog, and you can set that here, as well as the visitor to lead conversion rate. And this is set up mainly for B2B businesses. If you're an e-commerce site, this is going to be more straightforward. It's probably going to be a purchase rate. But let's say you've got like an email list or some offers on the site, some ebooks, some upgrades, et cetera. That's going to be this conversion rate. And then we can assume a monthly conversion rate improvement too. Oftentimes, the conversion rate improvement comes just from simply embarking on a better strategy with more business relevant keywords, but you can also do blog CRO, content CRO, and sort of up that conversion rate month over month. And then that'll give us forecasts based on that. And then economically speaking, this is where we can input the cost of our content investment and our lead to customer conversion rate and the average lifetime value. And then predict the monthly return, the CPLs, cost per lead, and your break-even point, which is a very useful tool when asking for money for a program. Okay, so like I said, I'll do some lightweight keyword research here. I already put Buzzsprout in here. And actually, let's assume, because Buzzsprout's actually really, really good at content. So let's assume that we're a new competitor who is actually very well established. We've got a great website, good domain rating, good backlink profile. We just haven't started a blog for some reason. So I'm going to take all of their keywords from the blog. Oh, actually, let's exclude keywords too. This should give us a good list of their blog keywords that are non-branded. Oh. Contains blog. Oh,
I think
this is
you wanted to enter the
yeah,
keyword. Yeah.
Yep. There it is. Doesn't contain Buzzsprout. Yeah, they kind of crush it. Hopefully this loads. Otherwise, I'm also going to do a little content gap here. So we can take competing domains. There's a lot of great keywords. So I'll export that. We'll put a couple competitors in. That looks solid. So what this is doing, this is a little bit beyond the scope of a growth modeling thing. This is just very lightweight keyword research. We're looking at what keywords don't rank on Buzzsprout, but do rank on these domains. And this gives us a content gap. And then we'll just stitch all that together once it's ready. Okay, so we've got an insane amount of keywords here. These look like terrible keywords. These look like podcast names. I'm gonna skip over these. We'll just use this. So let's say, I don't know, you're starting a program, you're somewhat ambitious, you're not going to write 1 or 2 blog posts a month, which probably isn't going to move the needle. You're looking at between 4 and 8 posts a month. So 1 post a week, two posts a week, something like that. So let's take maybe the top 48, given given this is about a year's worth of content. And I'm not even going to go through and see if these are relevant. That would take a little bit too much time. But we'll just look up to. So this would give us, roughly 4 posts per month times 12 for the year. We'll pop those in to our target keywords list. Just copy and paste them. You can actually see a lot of these are probably duplicate type keywords, but tons of search volume. These are high traffic. All right, and then everything's pretty much automatically computed here. So we can assume, again, position 1, position 2, position 3, 4. It's unrealistic that everything's going to be ranking position 1. I should also note, too, there's many different sort of nuances to this. It's like if you're going to produce a bunch of cheap AI-driven content, it's obviously going to cost a lot less, but the likelihood of you ranking is going to be a lot lower. So you're going to rank for a few of these pieces. And, you can't assume that you're going to be in position 3, 2, 1. And if you're going to basically produce more expensive content, maybe you'll rank much more easily. So there's assumptions with how you're going to rank for this stuff as well. Okay, so estimated traffic for position 1, you can see here the total is about 70,000, and that's monthly traffic. So this would be 22,013. There is a huge advantage, a nonlinear advantage to ranking higher in the SERPs. Then we can go to the growth model. So let's assume they're starting their blog from scratch. Let's say they get 1,000 monthly visitors, something low. Maybe they've got some landing pages, some templates pages, some FAQs or something like that. But it's very low to start. And they do have some baseline metrics. They've got lead funnels based on, let's say, an email newsletter. They've got an email newsletter for podcast creators. And from those 1,000 monthly visitors, that tends to be around, let's say 1%. That's a good, And then we're going to increase that conversion rate over time. And let's say it's by, that's a really low conversion rate increase. Let's say it's by 5%. Oh, wait, no, we don't want that.
That's maybe a good question. Just real quick, if you don't mind, Alex, jumping in there. Is that conversion rate improvement an absolute or a relative percent?
This is absolute. Yes.
So it would be
Percentage
so
based on
it'd be going
absolute.
from 1 to 1.5%.
Yeah. And that's actually a good question, because I thought it was relative for a second. I was like, oh, 5% relative on 1% is like, that's kind of what I was thinking it was. Yeah. So absolute, you're going to go from 1 to 1.05 to 1.10. By the end of the year, you're at 1.6. And that's a much more reasonable assumption. You're not going to get to like a 200% conversion rate. But you can see just the trends over time, right? You've got a traffic forecast here. That's going to remain stable and linear. This isn't the way that it looks in the real world. Tyler, you can vouch for that. Like, generally speaking, like if you're studying a content program, it's going to be petering along, and then eventually like the tip of the iceberg starts to rise. But for simplicity's sake, we've made this linear. And again, all models are wrong, some are useful, and we want this to be useful. The leads forecast, however, does sort of like trajectory-wise curve upwards. And that's because the conversion rate increase is helping us along with the increased traffic month over month. Now, the break-even analysis is where it gets very interesting. So we're doing 4 articles per month. You might want to add some link building in. I don't know if you've got like an in-house team, if you're going to do this with freelancers, if you're going to hire an agency, but let's say 4 posts a month is going to be around $9,000. $9,000 a month. Somebody to manage it, some tools, etc. This is relatively, I feel like 8 to 12. That's a good prediction there. And then you've got your lead to customer conversion rate. And let's say this is around 2% actually. So once somebody's on the email list, and then the contract value, this is going to be like the lifetime value. You might need some help from an operations person or an analyst at the company to figure this out. But on average, when somebody signs up, especially via organic, if you can split it by channel, that's amazing. What's their retention? What is their average value essentially over time? So for a podcast hosting, those things are usually what, $50 a month, something like that. It's probably not going to be 2,000. It's probably going to be in the range of, 1,200, something like that. I think a lot of people quit podcasts very early. We'll say it's $1,200. Now we get a break even. So on the note that we're spending about $9,000 per month, and we're writing 4 articles per month, starting with 1,000 search volume or search traffic. The first couple months are obviously going to be negative because we're spending that 9,000, but we're not necessarily seeing all the traffic yet. And you can actually see how this kind of progresses over time. You've got organic traffic here, starting at the baseline 1,000, and then adding an incremental linear amount month over month. And then we compute the conversion rate from view to lead. And again, this increases over time. So we've got some compounding returns there. Expected leads from that. The monthly cost here, cost to date, and this is basically linear based on the 9,000 as well. And then you can see your cost per lead. And I think this is a really effective communications tool because a lot of companies are built on the backs of paid acquisition. Cost per lead is increasing in many channels. And organic, a lot of the times people come and want organic marketing because effectively it can lower your cost per lead, and it's a compounding channel. And you can see it starts at $900 based on the monthly cost here of the program. And then as you progress and build traffic over time, that stuff compounds and your cost per lead actually lowers. So by the end of the year, you're at like an $8 cost per lead. And then we've got the lead to conversion, new customer count. It's a pretty low count, but we're only writing 4 blog posts a month, and that's relatively low pace, I would say. Then you've got predicted revenue and organic revenue to date. And you can map that out. By the end of the year, you've got 174, and that's cumulative. So in this sense, if we're ranking position number 1 for every keyword, which again is a very aggressive assumption, you've got 3, 4, 5, 6 months where you're in the red. And then on month 7, you start to break even and compute positive ROI. If you are in position 2, it's going to take almost an entire year to get there. Based on the search volume of the keywords that we've got, based on the cost of the program, it's going to be month 12 that you break even. And then in position 3 and 4, it's going to be a little tougher to do so. So the cool thing about this model is really just playing around with the assumptions and the inputs. So let's say we actually wanted to, do 8 posts a month and just really ramp that up. These are going to be a little lower search volume, but 48 plus 49, 97. So we'll plug in some more keywords, and then we're going to increase the, obviously, cost of the program too. Not a lot more traffic. So there may be some diminishing returns in this model, but we'll see. I'll keep those stable for now. And then let's say you've scaled this out with the use of a couple more freelancers or something. So it's actually not as expensive. You're doing 8 blog posts a month. Let's say instead of doubling it, we go to about 15,000 in conversion rates and all of that stuff. We're actually in a fairly similar situation with position 1. But position 2, 3, 4, et cetera, there's actually a lower monthly predicted return based on that model. So this is where you can start to play around and say like, oh, could we experiment with AI? Well, maybe it's less likely that you're going to rank that content. That's an assumption you've got to basically battle within in the company and in your own context too. But let's say we can lower that a little bit. Now you're breaking even faster. Let's say you can increase the lead to customer conversion rate. Work with the email marketing team, work with the sales team. It's actually going up to 4% now. Now you're crushing it. Now, I mean, like a lot of the times you're going to break even. Even on the position 3, you're basically at break even by the end of the year. So it's cool to play around with this stuff. I think that, that's the takeaway that I want to have here is that you want to play around with this stuff and see which are going to be the most effective levers. Say you've got a cap on 20K a month. Like how much could you produce based on that? And where would that get you? Is it even a feasibly exciting scenario based on that? So that's the growth model. And then once we've started producing content, we're several months out. How do you measure that ROI? This is a little bit more complicated nowadays with GA4. It used to be a lot simpler. But basically, you don't want a marketing dashboard with a whole bunch of BS that doesn't matter. Again, not everything in content is measurable. And even the stuff you can measure, a lot of the stuff you can measure is unimportant. So what I like to do is keep it really simple. Instead of trying to encompass every possible benefit and every possible impression and click-through rate on content, try to measure search rankings. And again, this is for SEO, search rankings, leading indicator, and search-driven strategy. Overall organic traffic, again, could be a vanity metric if you're writing irrelevant stuff. If you're writing, best motivational quotes and you're selling sales software, but it's a good leading indicator if you are writing the right stuff. And then finally, conversions from content. Attributable conversions from the content that you've written. That's going to be the best measure of your content ROI over time. So the easy stuff to get that out of the way is search rankings. There's tons of tools like I was just showing you with Ahrefs. You could just plug your domain in. You can plug your competitors' domains in, see what keywords they rank for. And even better, you can get a progressive rank tracking over time. And this is my website. I plugged in a bunch of keywords that I wanted to rank for, and you can see ranking for content agency, copywriting software, et cetera. And it shows my share of voice over time, my average position, gives me a little chart for my share of voice, all that good stuff. And this is leading indicators, basically. And then, of course, you've got Search Console. Search Console is a tried and true OG free software from Google, and it gives you actually more granular data and clarity, not just on rankings and the queries that are bringing people in, but on your total clicks, your impressions, your click-through rate, average positions over time. So this is a really good composite picture of sort of the leading indicators for search. Tons of other tools here. You've got AccuRanker. I like SE ranking as well. It's a little bit more affordable than Ahrefs and SEMrush, but tons of tools do this stuff nowadays. And then for traffic growth, Google Analytics is the tried and true in this arena. This is the old GA. I mean, it's still available, but this is Universal Analytics. And now we've got GA4, which everyone loves. Everyone loves GA4. So this is a similar report based on landing pages and traffic, actually users over time for my website. Other analytics tools, there's tons of these on the market. You've got product analytics that can actually map towards your blog and website as well. Things like Amplitude and Heap, Mixpanels, kind of an OG in that space. Snowplow for open source analytics. HubSpot does it all. I'm not the biggest fan of their analytics platform, but that's neither here nor there. And then conversion attribution. And this is the hard part. This is the personal stuff. This is where I kind of can't be as prescriptive as I would like. But in Google Analytics, if you set up goals properly, see conversions in your landing pages report. This was under e-commerce conversions. This was under basically transactions, e-commerce conversion rate, etc. Now there's GA4. So it's a little more complicated. GA4 is based on events, and you have to set everything up custom instead of having an out-of-the-box setup. I mean, you had to set up goals before, but a lot of the basics of the old GA was set up for you. So this is a custom report that I've set up on my website. You can see I actually haven't even set up conversion events yet. Been procrastinating on that, but that's where this column would be to replicate what this would be in the old GA. And you can see like by landing pages, the number of users, sessions, conversions, etc. You can also see that I'm doing a silly affiliate website play. The best option for me, and this is sort of a hand-wavy solution, now that GA4 is the staple, now that GA4 is being rolled out and Universal Analytics is being deprecated, I think it really helps to work with an analyst or somebody who can set you up a self-serve reporting dashboard in Looker Studio. Instead of going into GA4 every time and trying to find the exact custom report that you want, trying to configure everything yourself, I think it really helps to have the main metrics that you want to track set up in a dashboard like this. And we do this for our clients where it's like the KPIs, website sessions, blog sessions. And then below this, I didn't include, we've got conversions from blog, conversions from website. And we track all of that over time. We also include Search Console by URL and by site, and just a conversions report. And if you're really good, if you have a good ops person, you can actually connect your revenue data from something like HubSpot or Amplitude, if you're more of a product-led company, with your pre-click kind of website or pre-sign-up website data. And that's where you can start to do really interesting reporting on the lifetime value of a user brought in from a blog post or the revenue brought in from your blog overall based on the attribution models. But this is something that's pretty hard to create. It's why I like to do kind of one and done and then just kind of use that on an ongoing basis. Lots of other attribution tools depending on what platforms you're using. This is my opt-in monster data. And then a quick note on attribution models. This is something that kind of we get down in the weeds on, but there's a lot of different models. And what you're doing with attribution is you're giving credit to a touch point, and how much credit depends on what model you use. In most cases with Google Analytics, what we were using is last click or last non-direct click. So that would essentially say if a user had clicked on a blog post that was shared on social media and then clicked on a Google search ad and then clicked or went to your website directly and then clicked on another search ad, that last search ad would be the one that gets credit. In the first click model, that blog post would get credit from the social share. Linear, you give equal credit across them, and time decay, you give more and more credit the closer it gets to the last click. This is a lot of nuance. People get kind of people get very up in a tizzy over which attribution model is correct. The thing with attribution models is the same as growth models. It's like they're all wrong and some are useful. You just pick, commit, and it's more of a political decision than it is a rigorous scientific decision. In most cases for content, I actually like last click. And I assume that also there's a bunch of value that I'm not capturing, but it incentivizes more bottom funnel and more of a performance marketing program as opposed to doing a first click model. And that's more of a correlational thing. Oh, like I said, attribution isn't perfect, but it should be useful. What you want to track is progress towards your goals. That's the big thing. Keyword rankings, organic traffic, and I really like direct style attribution. So treating it like a performance channel and then just taking all of the benefits from content that you can't track and saying, yeah, those are definitely benefits too. But what we can track and what we can show the boss, that's what we'll try to do. That is the presentation on modeling and tracking ROI. You can reach me on Twitter at I am Alex Birkett, the personal website there, or my company website. And I should share the blog post too, the organic modeling blog post.
Awesome. First of all, Alex, thank you so much. That was amazing. I love all the stuff we went through. We've got some questions already. Oleg, thanks so much for all your participation here. And I do want to jump on this note because I think it is salient. So Oleg was just mentioning as since
Yeah.
we all love GA4 so much, we should note that one of the big recent announcements was that they are also removing some of those attribution models that we just covered. So that should make for a fun time in June.
Yeah, I was going to mention that too. That I think if I'm accurate, and Oleg, maybe you can correct me. I think they're just keeping last click and data driven.
That's correct. Yep, that's what Oleg shared. Yeah. So yeah, again, shout out to Oleg. Thanks for popping that in. I think that is something to keep in mind. One thing I will mention, because I think Alex, you nailed it on the head there, which is at the end of the day, choosing the right attribution model is less important than measuring the same metric consistently, in my opinion, right? That's my experience, because as you said, no matter how much time and energy and money you spend trying to dial in the perfect tracking system and attribution system and all that stuff, like, it's always going to have flaws. It's going to be wrong. There's going to be exceptions. There's all this stuff. But at the end of the day, what matters is, this is the number we're measuring, and is it going up? And is it going up at the pace that we want it to or expected it to, right? That's how you know that it's actually working and you're creating value.
And you can choose those things based on your strategy that's unique to you as well, right? Like, some people are going to have a longer sales cycle. So first click may make more sense because you're trying to build up overall top of mind awareness and brand awareness. Some product-led companies, you're going to have direct last click. It's going to be easy to attribute that. Some of our clients have been very product-led with freemium, free trials, my personal website. I've got affiliate offers. Like, I want to see, do people click and sign up within that time frame? So it really depends on your approach to content. The other thing I'll say is, if you're in a large organization with multiple teams doing, different styles of paid acquisition, whether it's social, whether it's Google search, if you're doing content, if there's an SEO team, try to agree on one model amongst all of you. So I've been in-house doing experimentation and analytics before, and had different teams using different models based on, they would use the model that would give the most credit to what they were doing. And then you, as a centralized function, would come in and be like, okay, the paid program is seemingly generating 80% of leads, and the organic one's generating 60% of leads. Something's off here.
Right. And that's the other, important to measure consistently across teams, and again within your team and over time as well, because it's it's easy to tell all kinds of stories if you change what you're measuring on a weekly or monthly basis. So super important there. Alex, I want to, so I know obviously we spent a lot of time here in that specific spreadsheet that you and your team have put together. Where can folks find that?
I think we have it on our website. Yeah, we have a guides and templates section. I can also probably just share that. I'm
just pulling it up. Organic traffic growth model. Okay, so here we go. All right, so
you got to enter your email here. I want to see if I can come up with a non-email entering way to do that. But anyway, I'll go to the comment. Do I go to the comments, or how do I?
Yeah, if you just pop into comments, that should be a public one, and then I can actually pull it up onto the broadcast as well. So cool. Yeah. Well, we'll get everyone access to that spreadsheet with the model, which again, kudos to you and the team at your company there for putting that together, because I think there's just a tremendous amount of work to get all that set up, and as you said, it's not going to be perfect for every single situation, but having that baseline is just 100x versus having nothing, or just hand waving, or just pulling raw data and trying to model it yourself. So super great.
The cool thing I want to say with that too is, like, we've actually had probably 3 or 4 people now come back to us after downloading that model, and they've created their own versions and like added onto it, or like added different dimensions. Like, we had one guy build out, like, it was basically the same model, but then he built out like the cost of not having the search based on like the estimated revenue from the traffic on Ahrefs. So that was even more persuasive. It was like, hey, like, here's the revenue we could be capturing based on the CPC. So if we were to capture this paid, here's essentially what we're losing by not investing in organic. And here, our competitors are actually sitting in these positions. So it was more like this FOMO approach.
It's like an opportunity cost. Yeah, I love that. Yeah. That's great. Yeah. So I don't know if you're successful there in terms of sharing that, but just real quick, here's the link to the landing page on the site. So if y'all are interested in finding this growth model on the agency site, you can just go to bit.ly/SEO model. I do think that's case sensitive, just FYI. So if you're trying to pull that up, that'll take you to the landing page, and then you can pop in your email to to grab that sheet. So thanks again, Alex, for sharing that with us, because I think that's super helpful. So Oleg had a question here that I want to, so sort of rewinding a little bit here. Back when we were in the spreadsheet there, he was asking, in your experience, what is the rough margin of error for the forecast versus actual traffic if the ranking's achieved?
That's a really good question.
So just to provide context there, because I know, we're sort of a couple minutes past that point. So we're looking, you're pulling search traffic or search volume for each of these keywords, you're loading it in, and then we're basically assuming, okay, hey, if you rank position 1, you're going to get about 40% of that volume. And so I think what Oleg's asking is like, how reliable is that number generally in your experience?
That's the question. That's the best question. All right. So I'll take this, I guess, in 3 different ways. First is on the assumptions of the search volume. So we pulled from Ahrefs. You could pull from SEMrush. There's tons of different tools out there. And we were looking at a B2B company. And notoriously in B2B, especially for low search volume terms, Ahrefs and SEMrush underestimate them. Like there's all kinds of examples, and these are probably overblown to an extent, but of zero search. What is the term? Zero search volume?
Zero click?
Like zero click.
Zero search volume.
Yeah, it's like in Ahrefs, it shows that there's zero search, but then somebody writes about it, and it's like a pain point keyword. It's like a very bottom funnel thing, and all of a sudden they see 1,000, visitors a month for that term. So that's like a pretty common case here. So I would say, and you're also going to rank for a bunch of long tail and related terms if you rank for that head term. So usually it's on the order of magnitude of like 50% more to 2x, 3x more than Ahrefs estimates if you rank for position number 1 on those keywords. Another angle here is that you are relying a lot on the assumptions that you are going to rank with these models. So if you are working at HubSpot, if you're working at, Salesforce or something like that, you can print these blog posts and they're going to rank like right away, and you're going to have the brand name. There's conversion funnels built out. You're going to be able to predict a lot of that search volume, search conversions. It's going to be a lot easier to model it out in those cases. But like when we work with earlier stage companies, we actually don't use these as a guiding tool for goals, because it's like, we got to build a bunch of links. We got to build your topic authority. Like there's a whole bunch of like foundational work that happens before that tip of the iceberg starts to crest through the surface. So that in those cases, it's much more of a non-linear model. It's much more of like 6 to 8 months of like chipping away at the foundational work. And then all of a sudden the ROI starts to go up precipitously. So it really depends on the stage. And like, there's so much context with regards to the competition in your space, the individual company, the quality of the content, et cetera. Oh, and then the final point I was going to make on that is the variance in keywords and their conversion rates. This is something that I learned at HubSpot, actually, because I worked on growth at HubSpot, and I worked with the content team and the SEO team to basically drive conversions to freemium products. And traditionally at HubSpot, I can't give the exact conversion rates, but to a product sign up, it was extremely low, like very, very low. Traditionally, they'd done kind of the MQL model where, you'd sign up for a content offer, et cetera. And even there was a ton of variance, anywhere between like 1 to 20% conversion rates on a blog post. But with the product signups, we found, bottom funnel content, listicles and alternatives and this versus that, they would convert like 50x higher.
Wow.
So it really, really depends. Like, and that's where like those conversion rate inputs are also very assumptive. Like you've got like a 1% view to lead, like that could be 10%, that could be 15%. So that's where the strategy comes in. And that's where, if you're indexing on bottom funnel stuff, if you're indexing on top of funnel stuff, like you've really got to like key that in to build the model that's representative of your context and case. Because in our model, we literally just took the first 50 keywords, and it's like, I have no idea what the intent is. It could be very, very top of funnel. It could be very, very bottom funnel. There's going to be a lot of variance among that as well.
Yeah. I'd love to know, Alex, how do you all use this inside the agency? When you're talking with clients, like this specific spreadsheet, I'm guessing that, you use it as sort of a foundation. Maybe you customize it or build off of it when you're talking to clients, or try to kind of customize it depending on their scenario.
Yeah, the foundation building for sure. I actually use it as more, it's kind of functionally a sales qualification tool for me. because I want to see that there is a large opportunity in the space if we're going to work with a company and like we're going to be able to like achieve ROI for them in a reasonable time frame. We work with there are companies who work with us under the assumption and the expectation that we're building things out. You know, like we're Series A, like we know that it's going to take a long time, and we don't necessarily need there to be like a, you know, like $1 million to $5 million ARR or attributed to the content yet. Like we're just building out the pieces, and we need good content, or they can use it for sales enablement, or, you know, for thought leadership or something like that. But for some companies that come to us, they're looking for a certain outcome, and it's got to be very exciting. So I want to make sure that the opportunity is there and that we're the agency for them. And sometimes I'll share that with them and kind of walk them through it, and we can input some of the metrics together and make sure that the case is there, and that helps them sometimes sell internally.
Yep.
We used to use it more for goal setting, but because of all the assumptions that I talked about before, it's actually very crude as a tool for goal setting. And for goal setting, what you probably want to do is actually map back towards your strategic goals as a company and set those as targets, and build basically like a minimum case, a reasonable case, and a stretch case scenario. That's what I would typically do when I was working in growth roles. And that's what we try to do with clients now as well. The growth model here gives you very ballpark indicators of where your goals should be. And again, like I had mentioned, there's sort of a nonlinear return to SEO. So if you're setting linear goals quarter over quarter based on these, you're probably going to miss in quarter 2 and 3, and then you're going to overshoot in quarter 3 and 4, just based on the way search works.
Right. I love having sort of that extended forecast, because I think that's sort of the perpetual challenge working in this space, is that with many clients, you're sort of constantly telling them like it's coming, like it's going to happen, like we're going to see this growth that we like predicted. But having sort of a long-term vision of like, okay, yeah, it might take 4 or 5 months before we really start to see things lift off, right? Like we can see some you know, some progress early on, but it's going to take a little longer to really hit sort of the goals that we've set. So being able to see that over a longer time horizon, I feel like is more reassuring, maybe more salient for someone that you're talking to about that.
That's actually that's another point. There is like I'll try to map out, and to the extent that I do this, sometimes it's part of strategy. Like what I'll do is map out the whole landscape of keywords, say for a specific content strategy, whether it's like alternatives or templates or whatever kind of format of content they want to go after. And we'll map out all of the topics and the keywords in the space and the overall search volume. And then you've got, let's say 300, and you're like, all right, so at 300 topics, like you could accomplish this in 3 months if you do 100 posts a month, or you could do this in 12 months at whatever the math works out to there. So it sort of helps people engage, and this is where it becomes a conversation. It's like, how fast do you want to go? Like how much budget do you have? You're going to have benefits from going faster, but also if you don't have the budget to do 100 posts a month, or like, you know, it's going to be a crazy headache. You could span this out over 6 months, 12 months. And this gives you a little bit more planning capabilities internally. You know, you kind of know internally, like how much you have for resources. And given those constraints, like how fast can we capitalize on this specific strategy?
Yeah. And then I think it works the other way too, right? Because a lot of times people will come to you and they'll say like, you know, I don't know what my budget is. Here's what my goal is, or whatever. Right. And then you can sort of work backwards to give them sort of a prescriptive solution to say, okay, hey, here, if this is your goal, then here's what your budget needs to be based on, you know, this forecast. And again, with all the caveats and asterisks that it's not, you know, a perfect model, but
yeah. That's kind of the depressing part of the model, though, is you'll often find, well, not often, but like sometimes people are very adamant about doing content, and they should be. Content's got tons of benefits, but they're looking purely at search, and it's like, you know, like here's the overall landscape, and there's like no feasible way that they're going to hit any break-even point given like their LTV, given their conversion rates. So it's like there's other things in the business that you're going to want to fix before you start to pour gasoline on here, because just given the pace you could go, like there's no way you could actually make this work as a channel at this point, right? Like, so
yeah,
sometimes it's like a very educational tool internally if you're just trying to like invest in different initiatives. It's like best case scenario, this isn't even that great of a scenario. Then other cases,
right.
It's totally the opposite, where it's like, oh shit, we definitely should invest in this.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, that's a great point. I think, you know, hopefully My hope is always that as an industry, we get better about doing that, right? Like, I hate talking to people and they're like, yeah, I worked with this SEO agency and, they promised me the moon and, obviously nothing happened. And, I think if we are more transparent about that data and we have sort of an agreed upon model or methodology for making those decisions and being honest with clients about, what is the upside here? What is the addressable market? I think that goes a long way to build trust.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
I do have I know we have a couple more minutes here. So if you don't mind, I have a couple like sort of super specific sort of nerdy questions, but also I just want to give a shout out here really quick. Anybody else who's on the stream with us, if you have questions for Alex or you want to, rewind and go back through some of the data or the spreadsheet or anything, please pop in and drop your questions in the chat. Happy to talk through those. My question again is just sort of super in the weeds, but when you as an agency, how do you all present? Like, do you use this during discovery, or is this something that's like in strategy after a client's already paid you to kind of put together the model, or how do you sort of position it in your actual sales and onboarding process?
Yeah, it's both. So the Cruder version is during sales, and it's more for me than it is the client.
Mm-hmm.
It's because people come in with varying levels of sophistication and kind of problem awareness, even like they maybe realize that they should do organic, or like that's a channel they're trying to test out. Some people come in and they're like, hey, we know we need 10 blog posts a month. We know we need this and that. But it's like, it helps me gauge what the opportunity is for them. And sometimes they've done that work. Sometimes they haven't. So it's like, all right, what is the overall space here? And that's more as a diagnostic tool. And then sometimes it helps sell if they need to make a case internally. Mm-hmm. If they're fighting for budget, among like more paid acquisition efforts, or spinning up a new AI generation program, or what, like there's all these different initiatives you could invest in. And a content marketing manager or director of content is like, I want to make the case. Like, I know there's something here. It helps them maybe sell that internally. But then, so we don't really use it as much on the strategy side, unless there's a very specific program strategy that we would go after, where we can kind of homogenize some of the inputs. So if we're going to build out a comprehensive content roadmap that includes top of funnel, middle funnel, bottom funnel, whatever funnel stage, all the funnels, it's going to be very difficult for us to sort of compute the value there, right? On a conversion rate basis, on a revenue per piece basis. So it's going to be it's going to be less accurate and less useful therefore. But if we're going to help somebody build out a specific type of content, if they're like, hey, we need to do a glossary, we need to do a templates library, we need to do an integrations library, and they've got very good historical data, and we're helping identify some of these opportunities too. Like, that's actually part of the diagnostics, is figuring out like what the overall landscape is of maybe some more programmatic SEO plays, or even editorial SEO. Like if you wanted to do a series of listicles or something like that. And we can use some assumptions on their baseline data or their historical data. Then we can actually build out much better models. And that'll be a part of those more holistic growth programs where we've got a class of content, or it's almost like a content product, if you will.
Yeah, that's actually a really interesting use case maybe for folks on how to kind of use this spreadsheet template, right? So if maybe you don't feel comfortable kind of getting in the weeds and really tinkering with the math and all the assumptions and formulas and stuff, you could just create several copies of this and sort of parse out, as you said, sort of specific programs or lanes, or whether it's, hey, this model is only top of the funnel content, this model is only middle of the funnel, and then you can sort of adjust all of those levers and then kind of combine that data at the end to really get like a more granular but also comprehensive view of, what does this all look like when you put it together.
I 100% recommend customizing this. The other thing you can do is you can compare an initiative. So like, if you wanted to index on like versus content, alternatives content, all of those things, or you also have like this opportunity to update old content. Well, modeling out the update potential is actually pretty easy to do, because you can see what position you're ranking for the top keyword, what the search volume is, and you already know the conversion rates for a lot of those topics. So you could do a side-by-side and say, like, what if we're to spend $4,000 on updates versus $8,000 on new content? What's going to be the return of those relative efforts? So it's really good for decision-making if you have set budget, or like you want to allocate your resources within a content program too.
Off the top of your head, Alex, you mentioned customizing, again, this template that we're referring to. And I don't know if you're joining late or something, this link is going to take you to where you can download the model that Alex shared with us from his agency. You mentioned customizing this model, and I guess just off the top of your head, are there any like sort of specific things that you would recommend people would jump in and tweak, or that you tend to customize yourself as you're using it?
Your conversion funnel is going to be one of the more personal aspects of your company. So the search volume, again, what we're dealing with is very, I mean, it's not like that. Like Ahrefs is good. It's not perfect. So like we're all dealing with the same discrepancies there. But if you're a enterprise sales led model, like your funnel stages are going to look much different than if you are an e-commerce D2C company with like one landing page and one product. So I would customize the conversion points. I would definitely customize if you have variable data on content types. So at HubSpot, it's hard to do if you're a small company, but at HubSpot, we obviously had data scientists and ops people, and we could predict actually, like based on historical data, the value of a lead versus a product user split by every product and split by every channel.
Wow.
So we could say like on average, a free email marketing tool sign up is worth X dollars, and a lead, based on this content asset type is worth this many dollars. So you could get much more granular on the conversion LTV assumptions based on the content types. There's a trade-off. Like the point of diminishing returns is a real thing with some of these models. It's like, how much time do you want to spend tweaking the model versus just doing the work? Like, I don't know. So it's like for me, like, I'm like, all right, like there's a sort of, I'm trying not to swear, but there's a sort of,
you could swear.
It's like intellectual masturbation, or like, it's like it's just like you could spend all of your time in these models, but like at the end of the day, you should probably just go do stuff too. Because otherwise you're not going to actually learn if it works or not. So
for sure. Yeah. I totally understand that. And I think, depending on the kind of person that you are, you either hate spreadsheets and this sounds like a nightmare to you, or you love spreadsheets and you could spend 2 weeks down that rabbit hole of like tweaking the model and trying to find like the perfect outputs. So that's try to find the middle ground, right? Like, And I also think, you sort of touched on this a little bit, but I think use this as a tool to validate an experiment. It doesn't have to be every keyword in the universe, right? Say, hey, look, boss, I've found, these 10 keywords. Here's what I think we can do if we invest in these 10 keywords. Get that budget approved, get that program off the ground, and then use that data to then update the model and further validate, future investment, right? So be taking a sort of incremental approach. I think, honestly, in my opinion, I think that's always the way to go with content and SEO, is that like, there's so many unknown variables when you're starting out that like, it's stupid to spend too much time trying to figure out what those are until you have real data.
I agree 100%. As you go, the model should get more and more accurate. But when you're first starting out, you're going to start with a bunch of assumptions, and that's totally fine, which is why you shouldn't over-engineer the first time you do this. It's like you're just starting out with the very loosest assumptions. And then as you do things, you collect feedback. Through action, you get feedback. That's how you learn. And then you can incorporate that into the model. And it doesn't have to be this one size fits all one-time model. It's like at the start, if you have zero data, who knows what your conversion rate's going to be, because you're also going to be surprised if you're running a good program, whether it's for content, whether it's for paid ads, whatever you're doing, you do want to leave open a basket of surprise where it's like, I don't know what this content format's going to do. And you might find a piece of content or a format that converts at 5x the rate. And now you've got like a new input into your model. Like that's a new piece of learning. But you wouldn't have known if you didn't just kind of take the swing without data. For sure.
Yeah, I love that. Cool. Well, we are just about out of time here. We did have one final question here, and I think we already answered this, but from Anthony, he was asking, are the traffic assumptions conservative, optimistic, based on the data? And I think what we're saying is that, if you're pulling search volume out of, say, Ahrefs, generally speaking, it's, sort of 2-3x below what we generally see in terms of actual traffic or actual volume.
Yeah, generally speaking, conservative. I will. This is such a nuanced, stupid point, but I have seen keywords that seem to have a lot of search volume, and then I write about them in rank, and they don't do anything. So there are keywords on the other side of that spectrum as well, where they overestimate it. But generally, I've seen if you're doing a very good keyword research strategy that incorporates customer interviews and pain point analysis and all of that good stuff that isn't just taken from the tool, generally speaking, you're going to get more traffic than the search tools tell you there's going to be.
Yep. Cool. Awesome, man. Well, Alex, this has been an amazing conversation. First of all, I just want to say thanks all for joining us today. If you haven't already, please subscribe here on YouTube. If you're not already a member of Top of the Funnel, yesoptimist.com/tofu. And then again, that link for the SEO model Alex shared here is on their website. Any last notes, thoughts, ideas, Alex?
I don't think so. Just play around with it. It's fun. I don't know.
For sure, man. For sure. Yeah. Cool, man. Well, thank you so much again. Also, you can, I almost forgot. You can find Alex on Twitter. I don't have a banner pulled up, unfortunately, but I am Alex Birkett on Twitter. So yeah, definitely look him up. And I believe he's going to pop into Tofu as well if you have any additional questions for him. So
yes, I will.
Cool, y'all. Well, again, thanks so much for your time, Alex. Thanks all for joining us today. Sorry for the timing confusion, but hope everyone has a great rest of your day, and see y'all soon. Cheers.
Thank you.